Greetings, everyone, and we are live with this latest episode where we are going to review probably one of the better episodes of Ghost Adventures, Season 14, Episode 5, The Silent Theater. One of the more wonderful things that you can do when you are exploring spirituality as well as metaphysical places where you encounter the energy of people who have passed on, who have a passion for something, whether it's art or science or love of the land. There's so many different ways that our love for things stay in this world and have a link that draws us back from the hereafter to the now and here in this world. And in some places and sometimes things link us so tightly that we're able to pass back and forth between the next world and this one in order to continue to maintain our passions. And in this episode, we actually encounter Douglas Fairbanks Jr.'s favorite place to go. And I have to say that I was a big fan of Douglas Fairbanks Sr., especially in most of the silent films he was in. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. wasn't in all that many. In fact, most of his work was actually in talking films. He was considerably taller than his father, where his father was 5'9". Douglas Fairbanks Jr. is 6'1", 6'2", according to some, especially in heels. He was, since men back in that time period would wear at least a 1-inch heel because of the type of shoe that they wore, and so it made them tower a little bit taller. And when Douglas Fairbanks Jr. actually gets out of the chair in the episode and stands up, he dwarfs Zach, which was one of the things that made me laugh. I thought, oh my God, I didn't realize he was that tall. Can't really tell on a big screen. But this wonderful place to go and visit exists. It is in Los Angeles near, I think it's called The Grove, downtown near the CBS studios. It's not very far off, and just a little ways off of the main thoroughfare when people go to the tourist traps around what they would normally associate with what would be Hollywood, near Mann's Chinese Theater, etc. It's not that far away. It's not very expensive to get in there, and the environment fairly vibrates with the wonder and awe of this new fantastic medium called film. I adored watching this episode because we have a theater here in Lancaster, which is, it has its haunts, and their passion for watching movies is second to none. And they'll even, I've even watched them while sitting watching some really awful films like The Visit. If you haven't seen The Visit, spare yourself. If it's on Netflix, don't watch it. You'll have to rinse your mind's eye out with bleach. It was silly. In any case, this wonderful episode is an exemplar of places to go in order to expose yourself to positive energy from the afterlife, from the other world, from passion, from art that can actually enhance your third eye and your other chakras opening and feeling positive energy. Despite how hard they tried to make this episode dark and seem dangerous, because there's a murder involved in the front room because somebody wanted money, petty shit. That wasn't enough to actually darken this theater in any fashion. Because when you live your passion, when you live what you love, when you live with art and energy, that is the most prolific and continuous thing in your life, even in your afterlife. And so I'm going to open this up to everybody. Hello, Joel. Hi, Lori.
Hello.
I don't think Joel knows he's to unmute himself. And Sonia's sending me messages now, so I've got to see if I can't get her added on here. So what did you think of the episode, Joel? He's probably making himself something to eat. You didn't get to see it, did you, Lori?
I got to see a little bit of it. And part that I liked, or the part, not that I liked, but the part that stood out to me was of course, Douglas Fairbanks. And then the part where, I don't know their names, but I forget which guy it is. But one guy is like, hey, I'm feeling something on my neck. And immediately they turn one of the cameras to him. And then they see like a little figure appears to be sitting on his shoulder with his hand on the guy's neck. I thought that was cool. And I was wondering what you saw, Ian.
Well, since that's the SLS, structured light system, I can't see a damn thing because it's actually a representation of the room in digital. So when you're looking through that, it's not really seeing the room.
Oh.
So when they did show pictures of him, they're always so zoomed in, I couldn't see a damn thing, and it's in infrared. And a great percentage of it does not show up. And any place like that where they show a place where it is in it's always in the IR spectrum, I have to work extra hard to see anything. But with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in the main theater, I didn't have to. I saw him, and when the psychics were actually talking to him, it was funny because he sat himself far to the right because Douglas always had himself dead in the middle. I could actually see him sitting there right in the middle. And when he was doing his thing and taking notes, he was sitting there to the side, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.'s ghost actually had both of his arms on either side of this big chair. Now, for those of you who haven't seen this episode, it's a couch. The front, I think, 2 rows are couches, which looks absolutely like the most decadent way to be able to sit and enjoy a film, because these couches look far more comfortable than anything that most people have in their homes for couches these days. And he was just sat there with his arms draped over the backs and was actually looking to the British gentleman to his right while talking. Now, the reason why that came in clearly, despite the fact being in dim light and sometimes in IR, is because he's psychic, and so he's picking up lots of information, and it's getting projected onto the recording, and it's easy to scoop it up later. It's not his mannerisms as much as it is being able to pull the information clean off the recording. And even when he leaves there's a point where they actually are calling on him, and Douglas goes and sits down. They say something, he gets up and leaves, and then comes back again. And that's when they were saying something about, I felt somebody walk out through here. I just sense and I don't know why he went that way, but he actually left and came back through that side door that they kept on going to investigate. Hi, Sonia. Did you see the episode? Sonia. You're muted.
No, I didn't get a chance to with what went on because I had to help family members with what happened in Manchester.
Okay. Well, it's definitely a good episode to watch, even if you're not trying to get ready for a review of this kind. It's one of the more positive ones. Season 14, Episode 5, The Silent Theater.
Okay, cool.
When you come to Los Angeles, it's one of those places you definitely are going to want to go to because it has a lot of history. Joel's finally unmuted. It lives.
Sorry, I was out front chasing a dog. I was dog sitting. Somebody left the back gate open, so I was my phone had moved off of the link. No, I really liked this episode. The episode was pretty good, but man, he tried so hard to make it seem so sinister.
It is a common failing, and I don't know why they would want to do it, because not everything you're going to encounter in the metaphysical is going to be negative. And I've been saying that since, a year and 3 months ago? And almost, I can't even count the number of times that Joel and I just went places like, this has a nice feel. This is a wonderful place. Gosh, and I think we discussed that when we were talking about the third eye in the last video. And when we were discussing things at other times, is that there's more spirituality and more involved in feeling the good things, but the negative things, people are fascinated with trying to draw that attention, because the negative, the harsh, the horrible, the mean, the cruel can rise to bait, and then the layman can get a feel for it, including I think it was was Billy Tolley got those scratches on his neck and that, or the heat on the side of his neck and that the possession in Erie episode, which once again it comes back to, yes, it's so much easier to find and poke the negative so the negative will pop up, and it's a bad idea, but at least you get evidence, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of weird, but I kind of dug it. There was a couple things I was wondering about, like air vents by the sea. They said that they debunked anything that it could have been. I just kind of wish they would go through that debunking process with the audience, so we know what they're doing to ensure that the site is clean. You know, like showing that they're turning off the grid in the theater, or just like a baseline to show some baseline readings would be amazing. But the one thing about the film and the cans that the films are kept in, those are like would be pretty good receptacle for psychic energy. So
yeah, when they went in there, in there, it was overloaded with energy. Because they actually showed that on regular film, so they didn't go into IR or any of that other crap. And every canister had its own vibration. The one that was actually right next to one of their heads was actually vibrating orange, which I still don't understand what that is.
Yeah, well, it's just like what I'm saying. It still will be good for them to show that baseline in those areas, so we can see when there's a drop or a spike. You know, because they talk about that. And that's just one of those things I was noticing in this one.
The reason I think they don't is because the entire show, you cut out all of the commercials. It's only 44 minutes long, so they have to pick and choose what they can show. But I'd like it if they showed a little more validation also, or at least lengthen the show to a full like hour and a half, 2 hours, to be able to give us more of what they're encountering.
Yeah, that'll be good too. But no, I really like that episode. Was pretty surprised with the drawing, and just I thought it was funny that they made Zach run. Oh my God, I had a good chuckle off of that.
He always seems really ready to drop and dash, and that's the reason why I get annoyed with them, because it will suddenly pan away from whatever it is that the target of the film should be, where you and I know that and can feel that something's about to manifest. They'll shift the camera. I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't know if it's on accident, but when it happens, they're just all of a sudden we're no longer faced with the information about to come in, and we're left with frustration. It's stupid, but real.
I think some of it could be like there is a level, like I would like to see them be a little bit more professional about it. Like when they get evidence, don't stop. Keep asking questions, because obviously it absorbed the energy to be there to make contact. So if it's just sitting there waiting for the next line of questioning so it can react, and you're talking about all this stuff, then it's going to use this energy just sitting around waiting. And I noticed that in a couple of footage where they're talking, and it's like I can feel something, then all of a sudden, about halfway through, it's gone. It's like, well,
yeah, that's like when Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Yes, like when Douglas Fairbanks Jr. got up because they were just yakking. He just walked away and walked back in when they were done talking. I thought it was funny because he kept. He walked out of the picture looking at Zach, shakes his head, goes off camera, goes through that side door, and they're like, Billy's going, I just felt something go through here. I'm like, no shit, Billy, really? And then he comes back and he sits down, and he sits down with that kind of, that resigned flump. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have to wait through this, whatever this is, before anything more interesting is going to occur. And then because he can't watch his film, so he's just watching people. And you can tell that was not what he was going to the theater for, but it was a next best thing for him to use as diversion.
yeah, that was pretty great.
And in real life, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. was one of those no nonsense kind of guys. If somebody was to annoy him, he was as likely to tell him off as to if somebody to start a fight for him to finish it. This is back in the old days where if you were this kind of movie star, you were a badass, and he and his dad were trained. They knew how to do all of their own stunts. They were fantastic with a blade. So whenever you saw them doing they're doing their own thing. You know, like Basil Rathbone, when he picked up the fencing foil, that was all him. So these guys were from the no-nonsense era where they didn't pose. They really did it. Maybe want to see a couple of a few of his old films.
Did anybody have any other sense anything? I mean, because I know it's kind of it's good to hear what other people's sensing. Lori, did you sense anything, or is that developing for you?
No, I really didn't sense anything. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
barely.
I heard you.
Oh, I can't really. I didn't really sense anything.
So it's still developing. No, like questions or anything that like impressions at all.
No.
No. So yeah, that I would like to have found out more about whatever this, like, remember they got the one reading there was like a Peter. You remember it said Peter or something like that in one of the EVP readings.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole
Spirit
lot.
Box.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot involved in a lot of that because I think they were there. It was the guy who used to own the theater was Peter, and or the guy who used to do all the work in the archive room where all the chemicals were. They didn't really get a lot out of that guy, mainly because I don't think they have as much energy in the afterlife as they probably could use to keep on moving back and forth. And they didn't really pursue a lot. It's one of those things where I really wish they would do more of the Aftershocks episodes where they talk about what you see behind the scenes. Because I know you were telling me about you found an episode of something where they were doing the pop-ups and you're asking, is this new? And I said, no, it's definitely not new. And but they were actually putting in pop-up data, sort of like the old pop-up videos on VH1 and et cetera, which is useful, but not always the best way to convey information. The Aftershocks episodes, now those, they actually interact with people that had been there, and I'd like to see more of that accomplished because that gives a more in-depth feel for the things that they had done and what they'd experienced and what they couldn't show on camera because they got to, of course, put it into 44 minutes worth of time that they're going to put on TV.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. We used to watch Taps, Ghost Hunters, as well as this one. Matter of fact, we would watch Taps all the time because Taps was because of how their show was put together and stuff with the debunking and all that stuff and the interviews and how they were able to edit all that stuff into 1 hour. It was kind of cool. And the reveals afterwards. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Taps crew went there because I remember an episode, somebody being there. So I think I'm going to go back and take a look to see what they got from their investigation there.
Yeah, it's not even very far away. The place for me, it's on the other side of the mountains. All I got to do is just drive in there, and there's the stores I deal with. There's 1, 2, 3 of them right near there, and I have plenty of excuses just to go right there. I used to pass it all the time. when coming in off of the 10 freeway, because of course back in the old days of early iPhone, the old Google Maps used to tell me these really convoluted routes to get into town from Lancaster, and would take me on the 10, which is like, I don't know, I'd rather take a running slide chest first onto a giant cheese grater again. But I'd pass that theater all the time.
Yeah, my dad used to take us to movies all the time. So Man's Chinese Theater. Matter of fact, I saw Blazing Saddles in Man's Chinese Theater, and when I went to see it, I saw J.J. Walker in the line with my dad. So, but my dad was a real big Charles Bronson, Clint Eastwood. We saw a lot of those films like that. So
now, for those of you who don't know the irony of the fact that he actually watched Blazing Saddles at Man's Chinese Theater, go watch Blazing Saddles now, all the way through to the end, and tell me that you don't think it's ironic that he got to see it there. So I'm not going to ruin anything. Just go do yourself a favor, watch this movie, laugh, okay? And remember that Joel got to see it at Man's Chinese Theater. Go ahead.
The great part about that is I saw it like opening week at the Man's Chinese Theater. So the line was like huge. Yeah. The line was huge. We had to wait out there, and it was pretty great. We used to go see movies at the Egyptian. So that was my dad's two favorite theaters to go to: Man's Chinese and the Egyptian.
Oh, I've never actually heard of the Egyptian. Where is that?
Oh, I don't remember, but it was great because it used to have the Bust of the Gods outside of it. You would have appreciated it.
It sounds like it would have been awesome. I've actually never gone to see a movie at Man's Chinese Theater. When I was with the California Boys Choir, we did 2 events in front of the theater, but I've never been in it. I didn't even go to where they actually had all of the little cement things for where people put their handprints and footprints or whatever before they took them away. I didn't even get to see that. We had to do this stuff for some movie presentations or something like that, and then they'd bus us out as soon as we were done. So my life has kind of always been on the fringes of crap like this. Like, for instance, I mean, if you want to talk about haunted theaters, oh my God, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. Now, when I was in the California Boys Choir, we had to go there so much, so often, whether it was singing for the Joffrey Ballet or doing different operas. Oh my God, we were there all the time. That place is haunted up the wazoo. There are places that if you go there, go into these rooms and you're standing there by yourself, especially the what people don't know is the theater itself is only the front half. The back half is offices, places to do practice, to stage, huge places. They're actually the equal in size to the stage several times over, and there's 4 floors of it. There's a freight elevator that can handle putting 4 horses into it if you want to, 4 full-sized horses, and that's off stage right. Okay, and off stage left is the one for where people go up and down in the from the dressing rooms down to the stage floor, or underneath to the orchestra pit. And there are some of the practice rooms I could not go into alone because I could feel the pressure of eyes. Not menacing, but I knew I wasn't alone. The freight elevator always felt like there was more people in there. And when you come out of the freight elevator off stage right, that area always had the press of eyes on you terrifically. It was absolutely immense pressure. Once again, never menacing, but there are areas underneath the orchestra pit that extends under the theater where they store things that was menacing. I could not go into that no matter what, even when the lights were fully on, I could not go there at the age of 9, 10, 11, could not, because it was so bad. So some theaters do have negativity in them, but for the most part, Like this silent theater is very like the Cinemark 12 that we have up here in Lancaster, which has two ghosts that they spend almost all their time just watching movies, moving back and forth between, I think it's 2 or 3 theaters. No menace, no negativity. There's no upset, no sudden deaths and people are sticking around type of thing. So yeah, there are places out there that I would tell people never to go to or tempt, but this theater, if you want to go and expose yourself to energy, it is as benign as the Athelhampton Manor in England.
On the channel, Angela says hello.
Oh, Angela. Hello, Angela Holgan. Sorry, did not know that you'd come in.
Hello.
Do you have any questions for us, Angela? I'm sorry, I know this is going to take quite a while before it finally pops up. You might want to ask her right in there. Lori. Yeah, I was thinking about the Hollywood Bowl just now as well. Hollywood Bowl has no negativity behind it at all, even in the dressing areas. It's far more cramped than the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. Mm. I'm curious to see if she's got any questions. Has Angela been in been part of the podcast before? I don't recognize her name, but then again, I'm terrible with names.
Same here. I'm awful with names.
Sean, speaking
Yes.
of like areas in Los Angeles, do you remember what was the name of the racetrack over by the Forum?
Oh, Hollywood Park.
Yes, that place. I used to go there with my dad, and that always felt kind of good, but there was like spots in there that felt like really strange. Like there was like definitely our favorite seats that we would sit in,
Mm-hmm.
and there would be like areas that I wouldn't want to go to, like just instinctively before I realized what was going on. But I don't know if you ever been there or.
The only time I was ever there was actually to drop off, and this was probably about 10 years ago. It's closed now; it doesn't exist anymore. They've turned it into a place where you can go and gamble, and you can see people racing in other tracks. But the only time I was there to drop off medicine, herbal medicine for somebody who had a migraine, and I was in the first aid area, and it felt like it had history, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Some of it pretty bad. Like we're talking people were like jockeys were kept there because they had a near lethal or bone breaking fall or a crash, a collision between the horses, etc. And so there was a lot of anguish in there.
Los Alamitos was another.
But as an amusing anecdote, when I was dropping off the stuff, the EMT there says, "Well, we can't just let you give them to her." It's like, you can't really stop me. This is something that they had me go get for them. And this person, the EMT, goes to the lady as if she's like partly conscious, and he knows she's got a migraine, and says, "Ma'am, there's a gentleman here." It's like, oh, dude, she's got a migraine. She's not deaf, and you're hurting her head. And she puts her hands instinctively to either side of her head like somebody just clocked her with a hammer. Says, "He's here to drop off stuff for you. Would you like to accept it?" I'm like, oh, fuck, man. Here, just let me put it on the desk because I can't watch this any further because that's just, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you're used to dealing with serious medical issues, but your bedside manner for migraines is shit.
What about migraines?
Oh.
Sorry, I got disconnected.
It's when I dropped off these herbal remedies to help with a lady's migraine because she'd been taking medication and it hadn't done anything. She was under the care of an EM. So for any of you who do not know that there's a difference between a paramedic and a nurse, here it is. Okay, the guy is addressing her loudly as if she's deaf or partly conscious or whatever, and she's got a migraine. It's like, ma'am, there's a gentleman here for. It's like, oh fuck, man, you got to be kidding me. She's got a migraine, and you're shouting at her. And she puts her hands on either side of her head, and they put her in a dimmed part of the medical facility there, right? And he's shouting at her, and I'm like, oh god, man. Bedside manner from hell. If you were a doctor, somebody would be shooting you.
Yeah, the training is different. One is a certification. One is like comes along with the degree. You have to get a degree, and then you can get certified.
But just this guy, I don't know what the training is involved with whether they actually go into migraines ever, but just logic. This guy failed that one too. Logic says he's got a migraine. Put the voice on whisper mode. Ma'am, are you okay? There's a guy here with some pills.
That sounds a little creepy. Regular speaker voice will be just fine. So yeah, go ahead.
So he's here to help. It was simple stuff. It was migricin and Curamin. That's it. It's basically stuff that has feverfew, magnesium, D-L-phenylalanine for pain attenuation, and turmeric to help with the inflammation. Usually works quite well. It takes about 2 hours, but it usually nixes the greatest part of the pain involved in a migraine naturally. Nobody knows exactly what brings them on. There are ways to bring them on guaranteed, but the ones that people deal with chronically, nobody knows. And this stuff was the stuff that she had ordered. She actually had said, husband, buy this stuff, have it brought to me. And I drove like 20 miles to get there to drop it off. It was the first time I'd actually been in that area of Englewood in probably 30 years. So Angela doesn't have any questions. I guess she left. Yep, just I'm the only active participant.
No, it says there's 3 people watching. I am one of them.
Yes, but if you click participant, it shows I'm the only one active right now.
So, I don't have participant on my page. I think that's just something that you have.
Do you see where it says live chat and then there's like three vertical bubbles on the side? If you click that, it should open up a new window, which I believe you should have access to as a moderator.
Oh.
And then you click participants, and then you'll see I'm the only one there.
But I'm here, so shouldn't I be a participant?
I don't know. I've given up trying to figure out how YouTube works. YouTube, it'll take me up to like 20 minutes to load some. I have a 120 megabits per second connection through Time Warner, and YouTube will purposely, dial back my speed access, going, oh, well, you can blame that on Time Warner. It's like, I'd like to blame it on anybody who's actually to blame, but you guys are messing with me, so I can't actually watch videos at speed. So I have to turn it back so that the screen looks like I'm staring at the world through a freaking potato, 144p, so that some of these things will just continue to talk in the background. And there's no reason for it. So I know it's YouTube actually actively turning down the active speed.
Yeah.
They're doing it themselves. Because net neutrality, fuck that. I mean, $70 a month doesn't actually get you better than turn around, bend over, here's the whole fist.
Yeah. So yeah, this episode, there's not much I could really say about what happened.
Your mic is turned away from you. Can barely hear you.
Yes.
Hold on. Is that better?
A little.
Okay.
Yes.
I had switch headsets. The other ones kept falling out. Um, I was saying that it's like I really wanted to hear more of the impression of the psychic that was doing the artwork. Like it would have been nice to hear more from them about what they saw, what they sensed, to see what was going on.
Yeah, as soon as both of them left, well, when they first came in, the amount of information I was able to get from the theater that they were in went from being able to see everything in black and white to all of a sudden, oh, it's color, yay! I can sense a lot, and then they go away, and it's like, oh, we're back to black and white. It really is like that. I would be willing to wager, Joel, if I actually was to have gone there and put that on film because of our connection, you would have been able to. It's the same kind of thing. You'd be like, oh, look at how much more information I get because Sean's present.
Yeah.
It's a direct funnel because our connection is so strong. We could basically swap energy whenever we need to, and there's a lot of data just goes back and forth. There's some things we just speak about conceptually, and he'll get visuals of what I'm talking about because as I get into the description, I climb into my own head and I start reliving it. And he's like, stop, because I can see it. I don't want to see that much. You hear him chuckling because he knows it's the truth. That's how much more data comes through when we're just like, yeah, I don't need the full description. Stop.
I don't need the paint by numbers version. I got it. Yeah, I think I really liked the structure light camera. I really like that one. I'd be interested. I'm gonna look up more information on how it works. The one thing I was curious about was the one time he got the spirit box to talk. I don't know if you noticed, but he was asked a question. It was like nothing, and then he tilted his hand, and then he got a voice. So I'm wondering if the spirit box could be a positional thing.
Well, that does beg the question: how easy is it for any spirit to be able to talk through it in the first place? Because it seems like it's one of those things that requires being in the correct position, and the ghosts only have a limited amount of time to be able to figure out how to be able to talk through it in the first place. Because it's not like they just talk at the air and it comes through. For paranormal lockdown, they have a device that works that way, and I forget. Sonia, do you remember what the name of that thing is? That big box in Paranormal Lockdown?
No, I can't. But I know it's a one of a kind.
Yeah, and the voices that come through that, Joel, are like when we would stand in the haunted places and we would just open ourselves up really hard until we were like stretching the edges of our receptiveness, and then all of a sudden you'd get those voices that came in like. And you start hearing different phrases and things like that. It's like that box seems to be a bit more reliable than the RF frequency spirit box.
Mm-hmm.
Do I actually hear a landline ringing? My God, they still exist? That's incredible. I'm back to the 80s.
Right.
Oh my God. So, Joel, is your mic the one on the phone, or is it like on the headset that you're using now? Because I cannot hear you.
On the headset.
Ah, okay, that's a little better. It suddenly shifted. Well, in any case, hi Joe, welcome.
Oh hey.
Hi. How you doing?
That's a neat anime thing. That's very cool.
Not bad.
Yeah. It's using face rig. I can pick different avatars, and it maps to my face.
What is it called?
Face rig. You can buy it on Steam.
Okay.
That's neat.
Yeah.
So we were just discussing the silent movie theater in I wouldn't call it downtown Los Angeles because that would be like Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, the the Department of Water and Power building right across the way from it. You know, the Disney Performing Arts Theater, that's downtown. It's, since Los Angeles is so big, this is the place is actually almost, you would say, I would say Hollywood, but not really Hollywood. Hollywood actually is East Hollywood, West Hollywood, Main Street Hollywood. West Hollywood is where they have the Christopher West Pride Parade, and East Hollywood is now mostly tourist trappy stuff, old Capitol Records building, mostly homes. Downtown Hollywood is going to be, you know, like this theater, that kind of thing.
I'm trying to remember some of the name of the towns that's right outside, that's kind of on the fringe of Hollywood, that were still movie industry.
Oh, you know, Venice Beach is another big one for old movie industry stuff, which is why Venice Beach is a hugely active. I just want to get some roller skates and go up and down Venice Beach area and see if I can't find, just by sensing it, Charlie Chaplin's old, you know, his movie studio where he used to shoot some of his stuff there, and see if I can't find it just by the feel. Because as far as I understood, it still exists. And I've been up and down that place, and it really is interesting. The feel of Venice Beach, all of the buildings off the sand, behind the like the restaurants and the shops and such. Looks like a tanuki now.
Oh, that's a cool one.
Yeah, this avatar is more expressive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm gonna call this a little early because I'm gonna have to take Trevor to school. But we lost Lori because her internet is not really super fantastic today. Anyway, I'm going to close up shop, and since we don't have any questions from anybody in the watching the video, thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, please put them in the low bar in the comment section, or send them to me via email. Like, comment, and subscribe. I respond to everybody's emails, no matter how many there are or how few. Thank you very much, and may whatever that you find holy protect you until next time we meet.